Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, February 11th, 2010. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. With this week, home brewer Scott Mathis shares his pale ale experiment. 1 wort, 6 yeasts. Which will be the best at showcasing the hops? You may be surprised. We certainly were. If you're new to home brewing or would like to get into the hobby for the first time, check out our website, basicbrewing.com, where you can find archives of our audio and video podcasts and our DVDs to walk you through basic and more advanced brewing techniques. And you can find me on Twitter. I'm Basic Brewing, all one word. Also, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/basicbrewing.james. And our show is at facebook.com/basicbrewing. Thanks again to everybody clicking on the Amazon.com associate link on our basicbrewing.com site. Whenever you think of Amazon, think of us and click on our associate link first. It won't cost you any extra, and you'll be helping us bring you the show, and we appreciate your support greatly. We also have associate links for Brew Your Own magazine and the American Homebrewers Association on the site, too. Several of you have emailed, tweeted, or Facebooked me a link to the most recent study out of, I think it's out of UC Davis, that says beer is good for your bones. Apparently, the silicon in beer is beneficial in building strong bones, and beers like IPAs are among the best. I guess they have the most silicon in there. But that's good news to me because at the rate my beer gut is growing, I'm going to need more structural support. We get a lot of show this week, but I'm going to read one letter from Matt in Cleveland about a fun recent brew day. I enjoyed the letter. Hope you will, too. Matt says, the Party Guile episode from a few weeks back encouraged me to get more economy out of my mash. I've been doing all grain for a few years now, and it just kills me to throw away all that spent grain each time. So this last beer that I brewed with my buddy Joe, I convinced him that we should remash while our first beer was brewing to make a second beer. We mashed and sparged a Scottish ale, yum, and then while it was coming up to a boil, we threw in some leftover ingredients, 5 ounces of chocolate and crystal, 8 ounces of oats, 8 ounces of pale malt, 6 ounces of Victory, and 6 ounces of biscuit, and a handful of roasted barley to approximate a porter on top of the sparged grain from the Scottish ale, and we remashed. We hopped with some leftover Cascade and EKGs, that's East Kent Goldings. We hit our targets fairly well and ended up with an original gravity of 1040 for the second beer. Due to the number of big stock pots on hand, we only did a 3-gallon size for the second beer, but it turned ingredients for 5 gallons into 8. My only regret was not being better prepared with yeast. We didn't do a starter, and the closest homebrew shop only had Muntons for dry. It is only attenuated out to 1020, but it tastes good. The roasty malts are balancing the high residual sugar at this point. We'll see how it tastes after carbonation. Thanks for the inspiration. It made for a 7-hour brew day, but with some tweaking, I might be able to do 2 5-gallon beers in 7 hours for much less money and time than I usually spend on making 2 full batches of beer. Well, that's great. I love to hear brewers bringing out a bit of flexibility to the brew day and experimenting a bit. Thanks, Matt. And speaking of experiments, how's that for a segue? We have this week's interview with Scott Mathis. Scott is fairly new to home brewing, and he wanted to play with half a dozen yeast strains to see how each would affect a fairly hoppy pale ale. Well, he sent us some samples so that we could play along. Well, Scott Mathis, welcome to Basic Brewing Radio.
Well, thank you, James. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're in LaGrange, Kentucky.
Yes, just outside of Louisville.
And here in Prairie Grove, Arkansas, just outside of Fayetteville, we have Steve Wilkes.
Hi, it's me again.
Howdy, Steve.
Hi.
And the owner of thehomebrewery.com, Andy Sparks.
Yeah, it's always great to be here.
Howdy, Andy.
Now we're tasting a little experiment that you've rigged up for us here, Scott. But first of all, give us a little background on your brewing experience.
My brewing experience is very limited. I just started just a few months ago, decades ago, I had a friend who made wine, and we tried one beer experiment using 1 can of hopped malt extract for 5 gallons, and it was just undrinkable.
Yeah.
So I finally got around to pulling the trigger and making my own homebrew. I found a local homebrewers club, Loggers, the Louisville Area Grain Extract Research Society, and they've all been a bunch of helpful people and encouraging me to go ahead and do it.
Well, talk to us about your experiment. What have you sent us here today, Scott?
Well, what I've sent you is 6 bottles of a split batch. And this is all your fault, I hate to tell you. But on Basic Brewing Radio, you encourage small batches, and you encourage doing experiments. And I can taste the grain, and I can taste hops. But to taste yeast, I used your advice, and I did a split batch. So,
awesome.
Out of one 6-gallon batch of extract, or 5-gallon batch of extract, I split the batch into 6 1-gallon jugs and pitched a different yeast in each jug.
Now, tell us about the recipe going into it.
The recipe, again, I got to blame you for this, because what I did was, with your 15-minute Amarillo ale, I did the same type of thing. I used 6 pounds of dry malt extract and steeped a pound of Crystal 60 in my 5-gallon pot, boiled it for 15 minutes, and then cooled it down, and I threw in some hops, some Warrior at 15 minutes, Chinook at 10 minutes, and some more Chinook at flame out.
Wow.
So, and, just to give it a little hop character, I figured that, someplace I had told me what the IBUs were for it.
Well, I've got a printout here.
I thought it had
27.5 IBUs.
That sounds about right. Yes.
Using the Rager scale.
Yes, there we go. Yeah. So again, a starting gravity of about 1062. And IBUs about 27.5.
So not a hop monster, but it's all about the yeast today. So,
but right, it's all about the yeast, and I wanted to make these a drinkable beer. Your show on the base malts using the 2-row Maris Otter and Belgian Pils, I thought was great, but I wanted to see what they'd be like once there was hops in it.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of carbonation and how that affects the flavor, because it's all in the beer. It all marries together.
So you've got 6 yeast strains that we're looking for today. 3 from Yeast and 3 from White Labs. From Yeast we have the 2565, which is a Kolsch, the 1007, which is the German ale, the 1028, which is a London ale. And then from White Labs, we have the White Labs 001, which is a California ale yeast, the 011, which is a European ale yeast, and then the 550, which is a Belgian ale yeast. So
that's correct.
The method of tasting that we're going to do here today, Andy said, before we started recording, what did you say?
Well, I said this is going to make fools out of us all, because we're never going to be able to guess this. When we should be able to probably, but it'll be interesting.
Well, what we're going to do is I have put masking tape over the caps of each of these bottles, and so we're going to taste them in a random order, and we're going to make our guess. And obviously, it's going to get easier as we go along to guess the right one. Our odds will increase as we go along. Yeah.
You would hope.
So let's pick one, Steve.
Okay. I'll pick this one.
All right. Closest one to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully we won't get the Belgium first, because it'll be really difficult after that.
Yeah.
Will it?
Well, there's a couple of these that would be more difficult to pick apart than others.
I'm thinking we should be able to spot the California Common and the Belgian. And the others, I don't have a clue.
Right.
But But maybe we will.
California ale yeast, that's going to be really clean, but the Kolsch should be pretty clean as well.
Yeah.
We'll see. This is going to be interesting.
Well, now that's
Okay.
the whole reason I did this experiment, because you can tell me what you're expecting out of yeasts, but since I'm so new, I've only been reading about it, and I wanted to experience it for myself. Hence the experiment.
Yeah, I mean, you can read the descriptions on the websites, and what I've done is I've copied and pasted the descriptions
Good.
from Y Yeast and White Labs, so that once we know, we can read what the description says.
And then let's see if it matches or comes close, or
I get kind of a bready
if I've
note
totally...
in the nose on the yeast.
Ooh, that's a
very
tasty
tasty,
beer.
It's good.
This is going to be a fun day. And this is Super Bowl Sunday, by the way. And I appreciate you guys taking a segment of your Super Bowl Sunday afternoon.
But so long as there's beer involved, it'll be okay.
There you go. Now it's nicely
Hopefully
nicely
you have
hoppy.
no bottle bombs. Every one of these was carbonated with 1 Cooper's carbonation drop, so
Okay.
they should be safe.
Well, the carbonation is very nice,
Yeah.
and the head retention is also very nice, as you would expect with beer with a bunch of hops in it. What color would you call that? Kind of an amber?
Yeah.
Very good. This is
great
very
beer.
tasty.
But I'm guessing both of you are struggling to pull this one out.
I don't have any idea what this...
I did detect a little bit of breadiness on the nose as well, Andy. But it's so nicely hopped.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with the German ale yeast. But I am completely guessing.
You know, it's a crisp.
It is.
Yeah.
Very crisp.
It could be the
When
California ale.
you said bready, I was thinking that too. I was thinking London ale yeast maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the 1028.
I'm going to go with the London Ale, too.
Okay.
That makes sense to me.
All right.
Let's see.
Drum roll. It has a K on the top. What is the K?
That would be the Kolsch.
This is the Kolsch.
The Kolsch.
Be the Kolsch.
Well, there you go.
Strike one.
That was going to be my
Wow.
second guess.
we happen to have one here in Kentucky.
Speaking of K.
Very nice. I
Now
noticed
you're
in the
saying it's a little bready.
just on the nose, there was kind of this little, almost like it was very nice, but kind of like a dough or a doughiness in the nose.
Now let's read the description of the yeast. A true top cropping yeast similar to alt strains produces slightly more fruity/winey characteristics. Fruitiness increases with temperature increase. Low or no detectable diacetyl production. Also ferments well at cold, 55 to 60 degree Fahrenheit range. That's 13 to 16 C. Used to produce quick conditioning pseudo locker beers.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is bright.
Nice. Very nice.
So it's really, a pale ale made with a Kolsch yeast. In other words, I'm thinking you don't really have a Kolsch grain bill here to give it away. And the yeast is not distinctive enough, or at least it wasn't to our palates to go, oh, this is something other than ale yeast. Okay.
Okay. Do we
Right,
mix?
which is exactly what I'm going for here, is what flavors does the yeast contribute? So you're right. I guess it would make a difference with the proper grain bill.
Mm-hmm.
But just on its own, I'm not sure how else to test.
Second from
Andy's
the
trying to draw to an inside straight.
I want to find that Belgian.
Now the head on this is not as strong as
It's
the
not as creamy
previous one.
looking.
But still nice. That
Color's
got
pretty
some
much the
smell.
same.
That's got some fruitiness in the nose.
Mm-hmm. That is definitely a different beer.
Oh. Now, the hops are not nearly as pronounced in this one.
Mm-mm.
And this was the same wort,
Much fruitier.
right, Scott?
Yes, identical. It was the same batch, just fermented in different jugs. So everything is identical.
Wow.
This-
Very fruity.
With
Yeah.
only exceptions of the yeast, they all fermented side by side, all bottled on the same day.
Now, this has a grapey characteristic.
Grapey.
Hmm.
I'm going to take a guess since you said grapey.
Now, it is certainly more fruity. It appears to be less carbonated.
Mm-hmm. I think it's much less carbonated.
The mouthfeel is more substantial. I'm not detecting any funk.
No. But then I don't know whether you would from this Belgian strain.
Is this
So-
pulling the moisture out of your cheeks?
Not necessarily, no.
No.
Okay.
But I think I'm getting some phenol, some phenolic,
Mhm. I think that's where we're getting that fruitiness from.
Mm-hmm.
which is making me want to say Belgian, but
That was my first impression when I took the first sniff of it. I thought this is probably the Belgian one. But
Yeah, maybe I'm just talking myself into it, but
yeah, I'm
That's
looking
where
the
I'm
list
going.
over, to hoping to find something that might sway me some other way.
well, the rest of these yeasts shouldn't produce this much fruit.
That's kind of where I'm going.
Maybe the
Although
London,
the-
but
yeah,
I'm going to go with the Belgian.
what'd you just say? Fruit. Maybe the
London.
it's the L. It's the
It is the
it's the
London.
London.
It is the London.
It's the 1028, the Yeast 1028.
Wow.
Well, that was my second.
Wow.
So.
Well, I'm going to have to open one up and see what we
Interesting.
have on this end then. Because, again, I haven't tasted these since
nice
they
little
were
beer.
bottled.
It's
So it's
not quite as.
It's really interesting how subdued the hop character is. I mean, I would have thought that the London ale, since it's used to produce bitters and such as that, in the original IPA, would be friendly to hops, but the hop character, especially compared to that first one, the Kolsch, is extremely subdued. Oh, I guess I should read the
But see, I don't get bold and crisp from this.
It says rich with a dry finish, minerally profile. Minerally.
And some
I've never heard that.
Or a mini
Some
pearl
fruit.
profile.
Bold and crisp with some fruitiness, often used for higher gravity ales, and when a high level of attenuation is desired for the style. That's
I would
interesting.
have thought it's the opposite. 'Cause
Wow.
it seems
Yeah.
less
Because-
attenuated, a little sweetness to it.
Yeah.
according to this finished out at 10:15.
It's tasty. It's very nice. But it's not what I would have expected. Yeah,
Get a rinse?
yeah. Go ahead and rinse. We got 4
I'm
more.
told
so.
this smells like lifesavers.
The London ale. It smells like Lifesavers.
I thought
That's,
a little bit
that's
like.
what she said.
That's your sister.
That's my sister, yes.
Well, I'm
I was
glad we
thinking
have
a little
the
bit like fruity cereal or something.
Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah, something like that. But that's common with fruitiness and.
Well, that's interesting. When on that first one, when we tasted that, I was afraid. Oh, this is so hoppy that we're not going to be able to taste the
Right.
difference between these. So that's a good surprise. I'm gonna pick this one.
I don't want you guys to drink after me.
That was one of the things with this. I wanted to make them drinkable
this
beers.
one's mine. This is James.
And, not get overwhelming in hops, hence
Maybe we
using
need
Ray
2 new
Daniels.
cups.
Get into about a 0.5. I thought it'd be okay.
Okay. Here we go with the third beer. This
This
is getting a head that is similar, the carbonation level and the head that is similar to the first one. It's a creamy, nice, rich, creamy head. Carbonation level seems to be a little bit more.
This is pretty clean.
Yeah. The bubbles are a little bigger on this one than the first one, but the head is still, real creamy.
And the hop character is not as biting as the first one, as the Kolsch.
Has a nice, soft, creamy mouthfeel.
But it's got a good hop finish, though. And Scott, these are all clean beers. So I don't want to jinx us, but whenever I get beers from home brewers, it's like,
Well, I can understand that, but I'm glad so far there's nothing too surprising. Just the yeast.
Well, I don't think this is the Belgian.
No, I'm not getting a lot of aromatics in the nose. That. Very clean.
I'm going to go with the European ale yeast on this one. And I'm saying that because I get some of the similarity to the London that we just had. And, it's kind of malty. I don't get any sulfur out of this myself, and it says little to no sulfur. So that's my guess. European ale yeast.
Well, just to be different, I'll say the German ale.
Okay.
Andy?
Well, it's just got so much mouthfeel, but it's so clean that I would normally pick the California ale yeast, but it's got so much body that I can't really believe it could be that. But I'm going to go with that anyway.
Okay. And the answer is the European ale yeast.
The European.
Ding, ding,
Hey,
ding, ding,
Steve
ding.
got his
2 for 2.
First. Yeah.
He pretty much called that London.
Yeah, he said it was an alternate. So you get half a point for the London.
Half a point for the London.
Well, I called the fact that I wouldn't get any.
It's like whenever I go to the horse races, I can always pick the loser. I wish they had a ticket for the last one that crossed the line, because I can always pick that one.
Man, this is tasty.
Yeah,
I could drink a bunch of this because it's nice and easy drinking, and I think it's that body that makes it, that mouthfeel that makes it that way.
So this is the White Labs 11 European ale yeast. Malty, Northern European origin ale yeast. Low ester production, giving a clean profile. Little to no sulfur production. Low attenuation helps to contribute to the malty character. Good for alt, Kolsch, malty English ales, and fruit beers. Yeah, malty. I get malty.
Well, now, James, that's something that I didn't expect, was for the yeast to have that much of an impact on mouthfeel.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot.
So do you have it open now?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm drinking right alongside of you. I just wait for you to tell me what it is, and that way we can open
Good
it.
deal. Good deal.
Do you get any other impressions from it, different from what we're getting?
No, my palate isn't sophisticated enough to come up with something else. I'll agree.
Oh, don't count yourself out. It's, everybody's palate's different, and we may be building expectations into these things, and we may be fooling ourselves. So sometimes, like your sister saying, it smelled like a candy, a lifesaver, then that might trigger a note in our heads, and say, I can see that.
Yeah, well, it's so I can't disagree with what it is, so far that you've said. When I first put these together, though, when I bottled them, the European, my note said that it's fruitcake malty and pulls the moisture from my cheeks.
Huh.
And hence that's why before, when you said that you were getting a grapey flavor, when you were talking about the London, I was thinking, that's got to be the European.
So you made notes as you were tasting the gravity samples.
Oh yes,
and
that's something else that you've demonstrated. Is you have to taste it every step of the way.
That's right. You taste your beer.
And I've come across people who don't. I guess they're afraid, but I figure if I'm going to drink it later, I might as well drink it now.
And it changes. Bottle conditioning and carbonation changes the flavor as well. So
yeah, immensely. And like I said, I was very surprised to know that yeast would change the mouthfeel. I didn't know it could do that.
So who's next to pick? Is it your turn,
It's
Steve?
my turn.
Okay.
I'm going to go right down the middle of the road.
All right.
Now, also, I have a little bit of each one in a glass, and I've been marking the glasses.
Oh, okay.
So I can look at them side by side and check the color.
Oh, yeah. Keep us updated on that because we're not doing that.
We're not doing that, but I've been paying attention to the colors that comes into the glass, and so far they all appear to
Very
be the same
similar.
beer.
Very similar. I just see that the Kolsch is a little bit lighter in color.
Now this one doesn't have a
London
head.
and European, identical.
Yeah, this beer has little to no head and not much carbonation.
Ooh.
I mean, it hissed when I opened it up, so it's not it's not a dud. It's just that compared to the others, we're not seeing the nice creamy head on this.
The bitterness is much more harsh in this one. And it doesn't have much carbonation, really. It's.
You think it's harsh? Maybe my tongue's getting numb.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said harsh.
Well, the second mouthful wasn't as, it's hard to tell sometimes.
It is, which is what makes judging competition so difficult. Is you do this. I mean, you taste beer after beer after beer, and your perceptions change over time.
Yes, I still get a little bit of harshness on.
Yeah, but it's not a showcase for the hops.
No.
I'm not getting.
No.
So far, my favorite for showing off the hops is the Kolsch.
Mine too.
Because it was a nice, and it'll be interesting to go back. We've still got some in the bottle. We can go back and try it again. But when I tasted that, I was like, oh, wow, that's a nice, hoppy little beer. Nice hop, flavor. I didn't get a whole lot of aroma, but,
What, Scott, I'm curious, what temperature did you ferment these beers at? Do you know?
Yeah, actually, I do, and I'm going to have to, go ahead, ask me one that I don't have at the tip of my fingers. It was 64 degrees.
Oh, okay. So a good fermentation temperature for ales.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty well middle of the road for all of these yeast strains, that it wouldn't be too far out of bounds for any of them.
Now, this beer has good mouthfeel. Slightly fruity, I would say. Not as fruity as the London ale, I would say. What do you guys think?
No, I'd agree with that for sure.
It's good.
Well, let's let him.
But
Okay, I'm going to go with the California too.
okay.
What's left? German?
Yeah, German and Belgian.
And California.
I don't think it's a Belgian.
No, I don't think it's that either.
I think it's Belgian.
I'm going to go with German just to be different.
Okay.
You're going to be right, too.
Okay. Oh, you guys are right. It's a California ale yeast.
California.
Ding, ding, ding.
Which, again, surprises me. Because everybody uses the California ale yeast to do their hoppy beers.
Yep.
Right, that's supposed to be the neutral. Well, now, either I did something strange or it's actually the Californian ale yeast, because I barely got a pop out of this bottle also. And I'm looking at it. It's almost no head, and it's considerably darker than all the others.
It's still a good beer.
Yeah, it's perfectly drinkable beer. It is interesting how much difference it's made, assuming that all the variables are
The same.
the same.
That should be.
Now I'm getting more citrus character as this beer warms up. So maybe the California ale yeast shows off the citrus characters a little bit more. I don't know.
You would think. Everybody uses it for that. For their West Coast ales.
It's really malty and sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find out the California, it finished out at 10:15. Again, these all started at 10:62 is where we started. So fairly good attenuation.
Mm-hmm.
But over here in Kentucky, this is a little on the thin side. Actually, it's a lot on the thin side.
You think it's thin?
Sweet, very sweet.
I think it's very sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd go with that too.
So, without knowing better, I would have said that this did not attenuate fully, but
it may have been a
according
fluky
to what I have here, it did.
It wasn't as well carbonated in there. That shouldn't be. So
It could be that the yeast was mishandled,
I'll be.
or maybe it was an older tube.
I'll be honest. To have 6 different batches
The
and not have
best-
something go wrong amongst all this,
Yeah.
you're asking a lot.
So
But according to White Labs, they have a best before date. And the date on this tube of WLP 001 Cal Ale Yeast was January 2010.
yeah, well, it should be fine then.
Yeah.
And it's only doing a gallon.
Right.
Right. I did not make any starters with these. The Y yeasts I slapped the same time that I took the White Labs out of the refrigerator. It was a day before pitching. So they were all at room temp and all pitched one after the other.
And essentially, you're making a batch with a gallon. You're almost making a starter-sized batch. So
Yes.
So none of these should have any problems. Interesting. Andy, pick the Belgian. Which one's the Belgian?
There it is.
It's not. It's.
Where's your cup, Steve? Is that you?
Yeah, this is me.
So really, this is kind of an expensive experiment. I mean, Scott, you're buying, a batch of yeast for each of these. So we appreciate your letting us play in this.
Well,
deal.
I appreciate your show and what it is that you bring to new brewers like myself, the information that you give. And if by me doing this, I can help somebody else out, get them some information, I'm all for it.
Well, excellent. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you for what it is that you all do. I appreciate your show. I like that you're into the small batches. I mean, everybody else can only think in 5 gallons or 10, multiples of 5s.
Mm-hmm.
And you're all about the small batch, and I enjoy small batches.
Well, I make
So
bigger
far, I've
batches.
experimented with every batch I've made.
I make bigger batches too, Scott. So. But yeah, it's yesterday.
I have right now. I have a keg of a Dead Guy clone, and
What's your
I
address?
pitched the Pac-Man yeast. But before I pitched the yeast, I pulled off a gallon and I pitched the Cal Ale yeast in it.
Oh, cool.
Just to see what it would do. Again, a split batch.
That's excellent.
So I tend to do that.
Now this beer, again, doesn't have the head as the previous ones.
It's interesting flavor, though.
Oh, that's a tasty beer.
Yeah. I'm actually, I don't know, not surprised, I guess, but it's really illuminating to see how much difference it makes in these beers. Because it makes a lot.
Yeah.
And these are all different beers.
Right. This I don't think this is the Belgian.
No, I think this is the German.
But it's not really what I would have expected from the German, really.
Oh. Oh, there's something.
Uh-oh.
There's a note that I'm getting, but I can't. This tastes familiar.
That's the Ronson lighter fluid that I doused it with.
Beer flambe.
Yeah.
No, it's a really interesting. Like I say, I don't think it's the Belgian, but it is. It's fairly fruity, but there's another character in there that I'm.
But see, what might really fool us here before we announce for real is that we're drinking a beer that is not a Belgian grain bill.
Yeah.
We're looking for characteristics from a fully actualized Belgian beer.
And it's also not. It does this. The wort didn't have any sugar in it as well.
Right.
So, whereas like one of my Belgian brunettes or whatever it's got a bunch of syrup of some sort in there. So yeah, we may be psyching ourselves out, but
Phenolic and spicy flavors dominate the profile. That's the Belgian.
So I still go with the German.
Very interesting.
Oh, that's nice though. I'm getting some fruit character from the hops that I didn't get before. I think.
German.
Shall we look? It's the German.
Yep.
The German.
Yes.
Of course, it's
Well, now,
starting to be able to pick them.
along with what it is that I sent you, I also sent you a sample of my Sorry Ray APA, both before and after I dry hopped it. And what I did was I pitched the yeast from this experiment onto that beer.
Which yeast did you use?
I used the German from this experiment.
Oh, we'll have to check. That's
Because
out.
my
fridge.
tasting notes was it's malty and slightly sweet up front with mild hop flavor, is what I had said.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed what it was that I was getting from the yeast, and I decided to put an APA on top of it.
It's a true top cropping yeast, low ester formation, broad temperature range affects styles. Cold fermentation will produce lager characteristics, including sulfur production. Fermentation at higher temperatures may produce some mild fruitiness, which is what we're getting here. Generally, yeast remains significantly in suspension. It's hard to tell with my little bit of a sample.
I didn't notice that. I looked for it.
I'll go along with that. It is cloudy.
But very good.
Yeah,
I'd drink any of these beers.
they're all good beers. I mean, really and truly, that's the other nice thing about it is that one of the lessons I'm taking away at the moment is that if I'm wanting to make, some kind of pale ale and I just happen to have a Kolsch yeast, I'm going to go, it's okay.
Or if you decide to throw a little bit more hops in your Kolsch recipe, maybe that's not a bad thing either. Okay, so I picked this one.
I mean, a little more hops are never a bad thing, are they?
Well, if you ask Andy.
I'll probably get this one wrong.
Oh, come on, you can do it.
Oh,
boy, this
we're
is
back
the
to
biggest head, and it's dark.
Back to the nice head on it.
Ooh.
And just for confirmation, I'm going to peel the top off. And yes, it's the Belgian. So.
Oh, that's Belgian.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of surprising that the Belgian is last, because the Belgian was the last yeast I pitched, and it was the last of the wort that I pulled out of the brew pot.
Yeah, that's the Belgian.
That's definitely
There's
Belgian.
no mistake in that.
Yeah.
Oh, my. It's delicious, but there's no mistaking.
Yeah, the German ale yeast
like
is
a wheat
invading
beer.
right now. Because it is Belgian.
Ooh.
Oh, that's tasty.
Classic
Oh,
kind
my.
of wheat beer kind of flavor. Kind of nice.
Yep.
Spiciness.
Those
Oh, my
clove
goodness.
notes.
Oh, it's like you put some other stuff in the brew pot.
Certainly, I'm getting some a little bit of cloves, some cinnamon.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of cinnamon, actually.
Oh, that's delicious.
Oh,
But
and it's,
you know, if you're going to show off, and here, I'm going to get another cup. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the Kolsch and taste it and see if my taste buds have just been dulled over the time.
Yeah, because, to me, this beer, the Belgian beer, or the Belgian yeast, and then the Kolsch yeast are the two most distinctive beers.
They were probably my favorites.
And they were my favorites, yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Although the London was pretty interesting, too.
they are night and day.
Yeah.
They are. I have them right now side by side. They are almost identical in color.
Andy's getting the swirlies.
The head I have on them is almost equal, but that's it. The aromas are night and day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, I've just tasted the Kolsch again, and that reinforces my opinion that for this wort, if you want to show off the hops, the Kolsch yeast was my favorite.
The best in this.
Yeah.
Which really surprises me. That I would have thought the California ale yeast was going to be the cleanest, brightest, blank canvas for the hops to show.
Well, that's what I'm always told.
But
there's a Kolsch.
If you're doing a pale ale or an IPA, and it's got lots of hops, you might want to try the Yeast 2565, the Kolsch. And if you do, let us know.
Send us a 6-pack.
Send us each. But
this
so
is
which
so
is
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So which is your favorite, guys?
Well, don't ask me. Ask.
It's a pregnant pause here in the studio.
Yeah, it really is because I can't pick my favorite beer is the one that's in front of me right now. And there's aspects of each one of these that I really like, and I could put together a grain bill to accentuate that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, especially the Belgian, from tasting it, from what it is that it's bringing to this, just the very basic wort, I'd say that if you used a Pilsner malt, something with very light flavors to it, and you added some sugar to really make this thing attenuate down, get it into the single digits, that would really let these the yeast shine in here, and all the flavors and aromas that the yeast is bringing to it.
You don't talk like a rookie brewer, Scott.
I've been listening to too many basic brewing radio podcasts, I guess.
Well, I think this drives home the point that this is a great experiment, and you don't have to do 6 versions. You could do 2. You might pick the Belgian and the Kolsch, or kind of the other opposite ends of the spectrum. But the Belgian one is so complex and has so many different layers of flavor in it that it's hard to beat. Although I can see a lot of people finding it to be a little too much, and that they really would prefer more of a pale ale kind of a drink. Which I think the Kolsch would have been the way I'd go there. So
yeah, they were my 2 favorites, and I don't know.
I agree. I mean, I'm a sucker for the Belgians, so my favorite is the last one, the Belgian. I'm glad it came last.
Well, James, have you gone back to the European and the German? Because they're both bringing characters up that.
And of course, they're all warming up
Yeah.
now,
So you get
the
advantage
that's one of the things, and I'm finding that the European is starting to get a nose to it now that it's warming up a little bit. It's very nice. Although, there may be a little diacetyl in the back of that.
Well, no, I'm not getting any buttery butterscotchy. I don't get any defects. It's just not as interesting as the other two. I mean, they're like I say, they're all good beers, and they all have their pluses and minuses or
nuances.
They're nuanced. Maybe not minuses, but they all have their different characteristics. It's just that the two that shone the most for different reasons were the Kolsch and the Belgian.
Yeah, and so the lesson here, I think, to the broader audience is play with your yeast.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, what we're considering to be, I'm not going to say middle of the road or not the most interesting, 3 different people or 4 different people might say, oh, this European is knocking me out.
But that London.
Or the London.
was really nice, too.
Yeah, so none of these were bad. We are really splitting hairs here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, like James said, he's a sucker for Belgian beers, which he really is. Andy's a sucker for a lot of hops. I think that Andy's favorite was the Kolsch.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I think James's favorite was the Belgian.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I'm kind of all over the map.
And if we started with a wort for a porter or a stout.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. Could you try that next?
Well, actually, I have another experiment in mind. A boil experiment.
You need to lance that right away. Because
see your doctor.
See your doctor.
Because what I thought I'd do is I would mash up 7 gallons of, a simple 2-row, and I'd throw it into my brew pot and bring it up to a boil, and every 15 minutes remove 1 gallon, throw an amount of hops into it, chill it down, and then pitch the same yeast in every one. Every 15 minutes, do the same thing.
Now that gets into, if you're doing all grain, that gets into another tricky thing, because all grain needs like a 60-minute boil, because there are things happening to the wort that.
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out.
I see.
What's happening and when is it happening?
And at what point does it happen?
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
Now, I understand that currently Rogue is doing a 35-minute boil.
Oh, okay.
I watched your video from New Belgium Brewing, and they don't boil at all.
Yeah, well, they got special equipment, though.
Right. So what's happening in my brew pot, and when is it happening?
And Michael Tonsmeyer sent us a no boil. Was it a Berliner Weiss? A no boil Berliner Weiss, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was really tasty. So. Yeah, keep us posted.
Now, I've been real lucky. I have a local homebrew supply shop, my old Kentucky homebrew, and he just did a special purchase for us, and I was able to get 150 pounds of grain at price.
Oh, my goodness.
So I am now the proud owner of 2-row Belgian Pils at Maris Otter.
Wow.
Sweet.
So I have some room for experimentation.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun there.
A lot of happy beers ahead of you.
There sure can be. I just have to let it warm up a little bit, because I don't relish being over an open flame in the garage in 12-degree weather.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, this has been a tremendous amount of fun. And
I can't thank you enough for having me.
Well, and this is you have an excellent start on your brewing career. If you were this good a brewer this early, there are lots of good things to come.
You're here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great job,
and thank you for all the inspiration. I mean, you and Steve and Andy have done great things for myself, and I'm sure others out there. And you encourage people to experiment, try new things, and just because one thing works for somebody doesn't mean you have to do it that way.
There you go.
Yep, absolutely.
So, you and the small batches. I was just talking to somebody the other day, and, well, if you did a 1-gallon extract and you put it into 1-cup containers, fermented each one at a different temperature, a little extreme. A little extreme, but she didn't have a lot of room. So, we'll see.
Well, that's good, too.
There you go. Well, thanks, Scott.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks very much again to Scott and to Steve and Andy, by the way. all the beers that Scott sent us, including both versions of his Sorry Ray beer, which he had one dry hopped in the keg and one that wasn't. All of them were very good. Scott was pretty hard on himself with the Sorry Ray beer, but we liked it quite a bit. A lot of fun and very surprising. So I think for my next hoppy pale ale, I'm going to try a Kolsch yeast to see what happens. If you do that, or if you have done that, please let me know what you discovered. You never know what you'll find out in these experiments. A lot of fun. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Our 2010 Brewers logbooks are still here, still going out the door, along with our Reinheitsgebot is a 4-letter word shirt. That's on our shop as well. You can check out our homebrewing DVDs, Introduction to Extract Home Brewing, Stepping into All Grain, Low-Tech Lagering and Decoction Mashing, and Introduction to Wine Kits. We've got combo deals to save you a few bucks if you want to buy more than one DVD at a time. And you can see a listing of the fine folks across the country who sell our DVDs on basicbrewing.com. And if there isn't a vendor in your area, you can order them online in our online shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody who's continued to click on our Amazon.com link. We appreciate the support there. Our featured products this week that were purchased through the link are Burger Bar. Build your own ultimate burgers. And does my butt look big in this beer? Nutritional values of 2,000 worldwide beers. I don't even know if I want to look at that. Oy. Silicon. We're building better bones, right? Thanks again, everybody. And remember, I can't tell who bought what, so no worries there. Just click on the Amazon.com logo on our site the next time you feel like Amazon shopping, and we appreciate your support greatly, along with our links for the American Homebrewers Association and the Brew Your Own magazine. That's all until next week. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson, our buddy in Austin, Texas. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. So long.